Hi there, I'm Dina, and I like taking my favorite comfort foods and turning them into healthier vegan versions that fuel my active lifestyle. If this sounds like something you would be interested in, please make sure to like and subscribe. It is absolutely frigid outside this week. Way too cold for this southern girl. So I thought I would share with you today a warm and cozy soup recipe, one of my absolute all-time favorites, potato soup. It's a classic, it's simple but delicious, and I'm sure everybody has their own version. My mom made a very simple version, which was basically just potatoes, butter, onions, and like milk with salt and pepper, and we love to eat that just with crackers. And then when my boys were growing up, we always had a loaded potato soup. It was loaded with fat, loaded with cholesterol. Seriously, like I used cream, 2 kinds of cheese, milk, butter, and we usually had it with like bacon on top, and I think ham in the soup. Yeah, we're going to do a healthier version today that's going to have you warm and cozy and ready to go, ready to just slip your warm socks on and your robe and sit down and enjoy it and watch a movie and just warm up, which is what I plan on doing later with this soup. And this soup turns out so rich and creamy and delicious, you're not going to miss any of that fat. So let me show you what I am putting in the soup. It's very simple, very straightforward, but it turns out somehow just so delicious. So I just have 1 bag of organic potatoes. I have russets. They're the easiest to find organic in my area at my local grocery store, but you can use any kind of potato. You could use red potatoes or Yukon Gold potatoes, but since I like to leave the skin on, I like to buy the organic russet potatoes. 1 yellow onion, I have a couple of green onions, I have a couple of carrots, and I have a bunch of leeks. And I also have some silken tofu. This is what's going to make it rich and creamy. If you don't want to use tofu, you could also just use an oat milk or thicken it up with a little bit of cornstarch or flour. But I want some extra protein in mine, and I find that the silken tofu just makes it extra rich and creamy. So this is everything that's going into it. I'm not going to use any butter or any oil to start my soup, but if you'd like, you could use a little bit of olive oil or avocado oil or a little bit of vegan butter. But the first thing I'm going to do is get my leeks, get the ends chopped off my leeks and get them soaking in some cold water, because they can kind of collect sand and dirt up in the middle there, so you want to make sure that you clean them pretty thoroughly. Alright, I'm just going to get those into the compost, and I'm just going to take this outer layer off of each of the leeks. Just, you know, kind of like you would do a green onion. Just make sure there's no snails hiding up in there, which can happen sometimes. Bugs happen in produce, you know, bugs happen. Okay, so I'm just going to chop the white parts up here pretty finely. You don't have to chop them up super fine, but pretty fine. All of the whites and a little bit of the way up the greens. These are pretty clean leeks, actually. Pretty clean, so that's good. But I'm still going to soak them in some cold water. So I'm going pretty well up to where the leeks start to split on the end here. Okay, and I just have the leeks in my bowl here, and it's just full of cold water, and I'm just going to kind of break them up a little bit make sure all of the sand is out of it. And then I'll let those sit, and all of the dirt and sand will sink to the bottom of the bowl, and you can just collect the leeks off of the top and just give them a quick rinse. And I'll let those just hang out while I peel my carrots and get my onions chopped. And I'm just going to cook these in the pot right alongside with my yellow onion and leek. You could save a few out for garnish if you'd like, but these are a little wilty. They've been in the fridge for about a week or so, and they're not like looking the best for garnish. So I think I'll just use my parsley for garnish and maybe fry up some crispy onions in the air fryer. That sounds good. And I'll use that for garnish. And these can just go right in the soup. And as for my carrots, I want them chopped pretty fine also. You can leave them in larger chunks, but for this soup, I like just the small pieces of carrots, so you can kind of get a carrot or two in every bite. Carrot's not usually in a lot of potato soup recipes, but I think it adds a little bit of texture and color that potato soup can kind of be lacking in. And for my onion, I'm just going to dice it up about the same size as the carrots as well. And, you know, hey, look, my knife skills are not the greatest. I'm a home cook. I didn't go to culinary school. And I just wanted to say, don't let things like chopping and, you know, knife skills and all of that stop you from getting in the kitchen and cooking and making your own meals. You'll get better as time goes by. I mean, you'll get somewhat better. I guess I'm a little bit better than I was, you know, when I first got married 34 years ago, but I'm still not the greatest, but that's okay. You don't have to be the greatest chef to cook absolutely amazing, delicious meals for yourself and your family. So don't let knife skills intimidate you. And, you know, hey, if you have better knife skills than I do, I'm so happy for you. I've struggled a long time. And I do want to get them pretty finely diced so that they can cook down nice and translucent and give every bite of our soup a lot of flavor. Also, another thing, if you don't want to chop onions like this, they do sell them now pre-chopped in the produce section, perfectly chopped for you. They also sell those little choppers on Amazon that you can just set a large chunk in and pop it down, and they're perfectly uniform and chopped for you. Or you could also do all of this right in your food processor. Okay, and for my potatoes, I'm just going to cut them in about 1-inch pieces and set them aside in a bowl of cold water also. Like bite-sized cubes, maybe 1-inch, 1/2-inch to 1-inch pieces. You want a couple of them at a time to fit on your spoon. That's what I'm going for. That's the size I want. 1 or 2 at a time to fit on my big spoon, my big soup spoon. All right, I have all of my veggies chopped and ready to go, so let's make some soup. I just have a little bit of veggie stock here to get the onions going, and that's what I'm going in with first, are my chopped green and yellow onions. My pan could be a little bit hotter. That's okay. What I want to do with these, I'm going to crank this all the way up to high so it can get going. And what I want to do with the yellow onions before I put the leeks in is I want to go ahead and get these nice and a little bit caramelized, because that's where we're going to get a lot of the flavor in the soup from, is from really cooking those veggies until they have all of their nice delicious flavor. And that's one thing, when you take away fat, when you're taking away the fat, like the oil and the butter and the cream and the cheese, you want to replace that with flavor. So it's still super satisfying and delicious. And one of the ways that you can get a lot of flavor into any dish or soup or sauce is by caramelizing the onions. You want to let them get a nice, rich, golden color, and it just gives it such a great flavor. And you're not going to miss any of that added fat. And you can caramelize onions without butter and oil. You'll just need a little veggie stock or a little bit of water even. You can use aquafaba, the juice from a can of chickpeas. Not any other bean. It only works with aquafaba from the chickpeas. So trial and error here. Don't try it with, like, you know, kidney bean or black bean juice. It's not going to work. Alright, I'm just going to get those around, and I'm going to go ahead and put in my veggie stock. And I just have like a teaspoon of veggie stock powder with about a half cup of water. And that should be enough to get these going. Alright, I'm just going to hit them with a little bit of salt. And this will take about 15 to 20 minutes. And our onions at medium to medium high should be nice and caramelized. Caramelized, however you want to say it. Alright, once my onions have some nice brown color on them, I did add a little bit more veggie stock. They were starting to stick just a little bit. I'm just going to go in with my leeks and another pinch of salt. And I'm just going to cook these down for about 10 minutes until they are getting nice and tender. Alright, after my leeks have cooked for a few minutes and started to get a little bit tender, I'm going to go ahead and put my carrot and potatoes in. I'm going to go in with my chopped carrot and all of these potatoes. I'm making a big pot here. You could feel free to half the potatoes, but I'm making a big pot so that I can have leftovers for lunch this week at work, because this is going to be really delicious. So I'm going to go ahead again and hit the potatoes with a little bit of salt. It may seem like I'm putting a lot of salt. It's really not that much salt for this big pot of soup, but if you are avoiding salt, you can use a salt substitute or a light salt. But you do want it to have some flavor in there, because potatoes on their own are just, you know, they're kind of bland. So I'm just going in with about 4 cups of water, or enough to cover my potatoes. You could just go ahead and use 1 container of veggie stock, and that works well too, but I don't have any containers or any veggie stock made. So I'm just going to use water and about 2 tablespoons of veggie stock powder. And this is a brand I like that I buy in bulk, and I can link it for you. It's just in an old jalapeno jar, because I like to save jars, even though my husband hates it. But they're, you know, glass jars. They're reusable, so I like to reuse them. Alright, now I'm just going to give this a stir. I think I need just a little bit more water, and bring this to a boil, and then I'll turn it down to a simmer, and it will cook for about 15 to 20 minutes, or until the potatoes are nice and fork tender. Alright, and once our potatoes are nice and soft, and we're able to easily break them apart after about 15 to 20 minutes, I'm just going to take about a cup of potatoes, and it's hot, so be careful. A cup of potatoes and a little bit of the broth. Now, if you like a creamier potato soup, feel free to blend this all up with an immersion blender. but I like a nice chunky soup. I like my soup to be a nice meal. And to my potatoes and broth, I'm just going to add my silken tofu. It's about a cup of silken tofu. And that'll help cool it down a little bit too, so that it's not too hot when we go to blend it. You really don't want to blend up super hot ingredients. It can be a little bit dangerous. So don't do that. Let it cool a little bit or add something cold to it. Okay, and to that I'm just going to add about 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. Give it that little bit of cheesy flavor. And I'm just going to blend this up real quick. Okay, and I think that's good. And you'll be left with a nice, rich, creamy soup. And like I said, if you want it all rich and creamy like this, you can either put it in a large blender or use a handheld immersion blender and get that blended up all inside the bowl, and you can have a thick, rich, creamy soup like that. But I want mine chunky today. So I'm just going to give this a taste for salt and see if I want to add any more salt, pepper, or nutritional yeast. And I think that's good. So we might add a pinch of salt to the pot. Just a pinch more salt. So I'm just adding in my creamy tofu mixture. And I'm just going to give this a stir. And it only needs to cook like maybe another 5 minutes just to make sure everything is heated through. You want to turn it down to where it's not boiling or simmering, because the tofu may break and get a little curdled if you boil it. It happens sometimes and sometimes it doesn't, so I don't know. Oh, it looks so good. Alright, so I'll give this just about 5 minutes to heat all the way through. And I am going to add just a pinch more salt. It's a big pot of soup. Okay, I'm going to clean up my blender and then I'm going to get this plated up. Alright, so let's try a big bowl of our nice creamy soup. Creamy but healthy. I like that. I like that a lot. And nice and hot to warm me up because it's so cold this week. And today the wind is really blowing. I don't know if you can see out the window there, but the wind is like howling today. And you may be able to hear that and my wind chimes in the background. Alright, that looks good. And I'm just going to top this with a couple of garnishes I have here. I have my crispy fried onions and some fresh chopped parsley. And let's give this a try. Oh, it smells so good. It's very hot. That is so warming. It's so good. It hits all of those flavor notes that you want from a good homemade potato soup. So good. And you can have this with crackers if you like, or a nice toasty piece of sourdough bread, whatever your favorite thing to eat with your soup is. I always loved to just have a few plain old saltine crackers, and I think that's what I'm going to do today. So good. I'm going to go sit down at the table and enjoy this nice hot bowl of soup with my crackers. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I truly, truly appreciate you watching. And I'll see you next time. Bye.